Good evening. Today I came a bit late because I allow myself a luxury. That is the one to not look at the clock. So I had the feeling that it was still quite early, and then someone came and said, "Okay, look that it's 6:15," and then I came immediately. I wanted to start today with an anecdote. It is told that it's told about the life of Buddha. It is said that one day Buddha, as he was walking, a man came, because usually he was going from one place to the other by walking, and this man asked him, "Why are you here, going around, telling these things, teaching this here and there?" And starts to criticize, quite heavy way somehow, very aggressive. And Buddha asked him, "Sorry, but if someone makes you a present, and you don't want that present, who's who owns that thing of who gave it to me? Okay, so you're giving me your anger. I don't want it. You keep it for yourself." And from the kind of moanings, I feel like this is something that touches us, because there is a relationship with how I need to face myself, my aggressiveness, my fears, my expectations, and so on. But there is also the aspect of how can we relate and face with the aggressiveness of the other, with the attachment, the projections, and so on of the other. And this anecdote shows us one first thing, that is, what happens inside of me, actually, it's not about you. It's your feeling that goes together with my projection, and something new is created. And there I perceive something different. And of course, every interaction brings a transformation. And so no one of us is indifferent to the interaction with the other. And it's obvious, without having to stay here and get into details, that being in front of someone that interacts towards us with affection, love, and so on, and being in front of someone who interacts towards us with aggressiveness and anger, that changes a lot. And on this, we don't even need to get to discuss it. It's obvious, but anyway. One of the things that give the greatest weight to the behavior of the other in our towards us, it's how much importance we give to how the other sees us, how much who I am is influenced or not by how the other sees me.
Qualcuno che non è timido, che in qualche modo... Ok, va bene. Questo è un punto per me molto importante.
So this for me is a very important point, that is the fact that even if the interaction that is there between us, it's an interaction that brings a change. What you think of me doesn't change who I am. But I ask myself, how much importance do we give in general to what the others think of us? And for the others, we include here the parents, the children, the husband, the wife, the partner, whatever, the closest people to us, and also the ones farther away. How much important is it for us what the others think of us? How much energy and how much this conditions us? I would say that it's an important part of our life, from our way of dressing, the way of speaking, different choices that we make in our daily life, they are based on somehow, okay, we want to be seen, we want to be accepted, we want to be loved, we want to be respected, and so on. And there is a way of saying in a text of the teachings that come from Atisha that says, when, whether someone says that I'm the god on earth, or whether someone says that I'm demon on earth, that doesn't make me a god or a demon. So I shouldn't have aversion that towards who says that I'm a demon, or attachment towards who says that I'm a god. But I should, I add, I should have the sincerity, but with myself, to look at myself and to see myself by myself, without having to see myself according to how the others see me. There is an anecdote that I've told sometimes about this friend of us in Brazil, Marisa Orche. There is an actress, and she was a disciple of Lama Gangchen, and she met Lama Gangchen in a very particular time of her life, because she told this also in public, so it's not like a private thing that we cannot share. And that was like a time before internet, so the beginning of the 90s, where even in Italy, like the main actors, the most famous ones, were those that will make like TV shows. And so in Brazil, you had like soap operas, and she performed in this, and so she, from one day to the other, became like, okay, when she goes out on the street, everyone comes to her, and she was extremely well known. She was like a star somehow. And in the midst of this, she started to lose her hair. She had alopecia, and in trying to find what to do about it, with her friends, they said, okay, look, there is this healing Lama. Lama Gangchen is in Brazil, go to her. She went to meet him. Rinpoche was there in his way. He listened to her, and after he said, because she said to him, look, I'm fine. I've had what I wanted. I became really famous. My job is well. I earn a lot of money. I have beauty, everything that I wanted, but I'm losing my hair. And Namaganchen looks at her and starts to say, so if I understand well, you became famous and now you're losing hair. Yes, and he started laughing, and he was laughing. He was, look, she became famous and now she's losing hair, and he was funny. She was losing hair here. He said, don't worry, take these two pills, one white and one red. He will use them for everything, like a gadget, like something that works a bit for everything. So you put these two in a cream and it goes away. And then he told her a sentence. I'm not sure what he exactly said to her, but it was like something short. And she said that the laughter and that short thing that he said made her understand something important, that the fact that the fame is not in you but in the other that sees you as famous, and this changed her life. And someone maybe would ask, okay, what healed the alopecia, the cream or the awareness? But this is not the main point. The main point here is the fact that a person, when she is famous, either for something good or bad, maybe because they know you, because you're like an ugly thing, or because you're like a special thing. Fame is not you who's famous. It's the people that see you in that way. And one of the important exercises to do for all of us in general is to try to see ourselves by ourselves and not through the eyes of the others, through the judgment of the others. It's not easy, but there is a process that is that of, first of all, developing some awareness, to try to observe our thoughts, observe when are we doing something, when we are doing something, why are we doing it, what is the intention behind it. And we will see slowly that we will recognize more and more those actions where I'm doing that thing in order to in order for the other to see me in a certain way or to do that certain thing or to say that thing to show how good I am, how beautiful I am, and these kind of things. We try with many of our actions. I'm sorry to say it maybe like in an ugly way, but we try in general with many of our actions to manipulate the vision that the others have of us. So we try to kind of diminish the things that are not so good. We try to give more highlight to the things that are more good, to make them more pretty, also to give some makeup to them. Why do we do this? By all means, because we believe that when the others see us in a certain way, we will be more happy. We project both our happiness on on our image, both and the causes of our suffering. When someone speaks badly of us, criticizes us, are we left like badly with that? Why? I ask sincerely, why? Why do we? It's not like a rhetorical question. Like one speaks badly of me. Why? That's not my problem. It's his problem. One thing is that the person speaks badly of me and that maybe at work creates like a certain tension, so I have to fix that kind of misunderstanding. But let's say that someone speaks badly of us and doesn't have any practical implication, real practical implication. What does it change to us? And if we don't know that that person speaks badly of us, does it change something? And if he speaks in a good way, does it mean that I become more beautiful, more nice, more gentle because they speak in a better way of me, or the other way around, maybe? The other day I was listening to when there was last Saturday. Some of you, I think maybe you were present at the Vesak. When we finished that moment, that was pleasant altogether, going there in a sort of kind of. I was there with Daniele and Gianluca, and he had like an incredible amount of questions that he brought with him. Daniele takes out these questions, and at a certain point, he made like a sort of research on the words that are the most present in media. I don't remember like both on the positive side and negative side, and among this there was this one, the phobia of performance. There is like a quantity of phobias, like very particular. I didn't even remember them. One of these is the phobia that comes like the fear of how the other will take what I have to say, the fear of performance. And with social media also this increases. I make like a post. Will people like it or not? What will they say? I said what I wanted to say. Why would I care? I say what I how I think it, then. But what I want to say, whether there is like a million people that say how beautiful is that, for me doesn't make it more beautiful. And if I like it, and according to me it's like something that has a meaning, or whether there are other 4 million people that say that ugly, I try to have a minimum of critical sense to review it and see it again. But if I'm convinced that it's beautiful, for me that's beautiful and it remains that. That doesn't change it. because like a certain number says something or another. But here the point is not the big numbers. The point is everyday life, people with whom we have to interact in our daily life. Before I asked whether if someone speaks badly of me, does it change something? What does it change? It changes the interaction with that person, yes. Inside of me, it doesn't change anything in the sense that you can think whatever you want of me, I will not become what you think. Otherwise, you will be a very powerful being, if you call. But up to today, I have never met anyone with this capacity that I think something of someone and that person becomes that. So if someone can think or even say or write whatever on me, that wouldn't make me that I become that. This is a point, and it's important for us to have this point solid of clarity. Where does it become like a bit more problematic? If you think something that I don't believe that it's like that and it's not good, and I want to maintain a good relationship with you, at that point that creates distance. That point is it's important to try to find like a meeting point to kind of clarify things. In this sense, yes. I'm not saying that we should have an attitude of in negligence, indifference. Yes, you can think whatever. I don't care. It's not that. The point is, I should allow myself to see my characteristics, even also because how can I try to sum it up a bit. Our tendency is to take one part and to generalize it on everything. To me, it has happened to receive some criticism and observe in myself and to see that the first reaction towards the criticism is to put oneself on the defense. I had luck in these occasions to allow myself to breathe a bit. But yes, wait, let me listen to this. And to see that one part of the criticism, according to me, didn't actually fit, and some things actually were very, very true. So I said, thanks. But in order to do that, it requires an attitude of, how can I say, not just humility, but an attitude of saying, okay, what do you think of me? Does make me what I am, and I shouldn't put myself on the defense, but you give me a different perspective. And so you help me to see better what I do, you help me to see better how I am. Now I manifest. For example, it has happened to me to have some kind of behavior that in my awareness, my way of seeing and living things, it was fine. I had no intention to harm anyone. I had a feeling that according to me it was okay, and so. But there were some people, someone that sometimes had the transparency and the courage to verbalize. Looked at that behavior here and there. I felt bad for this and that reason. And I saw that the first reaction is to put oneself on the defense. But look, my motivation was good. I didn't harm, didn't do anything bad. So then one breathes again and observes. And so what I thought is that aside of my motivation, if this person took it in this way, it means that in that context, that person, what I wanted didn't work. So here one needs to step out of oneself and to see the other. And there is the beautiful work to say, okay, look, I'm sorry, I understood that even if my motivation was good, the way that I say that in this context didn't work, it brought something different. I will try to be more careful on this in the future. I will try to learn from that experience. Because here there are two aspects that can seem contradictory but actually are complementary. On one hand, it's to allow oneself to see oneself and to nourish our identity from our own characteristics and not from what one says or the other person says or thinks. That means I shouldn't live with this anxiety and fear of the conditioning of this from the other person. And on the other hand, at the same time, I see that I have to adapt to all those with which I live. And so I adapt with the mentality of one to the necessity of the other and try to interact in the way that it's the best for each one with which I am. So it's not like indifference, not caring about the other, but but also to be able to use the judgment of the other to get to know oneself better, to see oneself. But is that an enormous difference from using the judgment of the other as a tool to know myself better and to redirect myself on one thing or the other, and and to condition my choices on what the others think of me, because it's interesting. Let's say that I like to cook a lot. I make like just a random example, and I cook well, and I really like to cook, and I like the joy of being able to offer some good food to people, and I do it with my heart. I do it like very well, and really I want to offer the best. And when I feel that on the other side, I am able to give that moment of joy that gives me a lot of pleasure. And at a certain point, I start to receive compliments. Oh, how good you are here, you're such a good cook there, and so on. Oh, thank you. I am happy, beautiful, it's alright. And it's okay up to here. The problem begins when I go to cook the next time, and bit by bit, it becomes more important being the good cook rather than offering a good food to people. And at that point, cooking good food is not anymore at the service of who comes to eat it, but at the service of my ego of being like a good cook. So I didn't think on purpose about the cook, but I go on with this example. So also getting to the point even that I don't even cook anymore because I am already the good cook. I don't know if this is clear. So at a certain point, my ego feeds on being the good cook, and so I don't even feel the need anymore. Like I lost touch with what brought me there, that initially gave me the joy, that it was the offering something to the other, that is my quality that brought me there. So it's a bit like sometimes this happens also in more serious contexts. I am a person that has an attitude of love, of compassion, like a doctor or whatever kind of context field. Like a person that has like a serious dedication to others can help them well, and at a certain point starts or she to receive a lot of recognition in his field to be a good doctor or whatever. And everyone, how compassionate you are, like such a wonderful person here and there. And there is a danger here that bit by bit this makes me pleasure up to a certain point, it's okay. But the danger is that at a certain point the most important thing is to be the person that is compassionate. It's not to have compassion. At a certain point, the most important thing is not to help the other, but being the one that helps. I don't know if the difference is clear. And here we lose everything. It's like a trap from which it's not easy to get out. And when someone can get out of it, there is a lot of work that needs to be done to bring oneself back to a healthy state. I remember once I was 10 years old. It was my birthday of when I was 10 years old actually. We were in Kathmandu, and it was a time where We were doing like a prayer the day after we had to leave to Tibet together with Lama Gangchen, and I made a prayer. And I remember, even today, the beauty of doing that prayer in a very, very pure way without having expectation or stuff like that. I don't need to get into the details now of that, but some time after that, by observing, I saw as we grow how much harder it becomes to have even make like a pure prayer. What do I mean by that? The ego puts himself in between. I to make a prayer with love and how good I am, but who cares about that? You're here thinking about the other. We play a lot of tricks on ourselves, and it consumes an enormous quantity of energy in our lives. Then one day we die, someone maybe will remember us. For how long? According to you, 20 years, something more, 100. I don't know if you've ever made like a trip to the graveyard. To me, it's one of the places that I like. Also, when I was like a kid, I've always liked the graveyard. I liked the silence. And one of the things that makes oneself reflect that you go there and you see that enormous quantity of names and everything, and all these people have done a lot of things, had many people connected with them, and the majority of them, no one knows who they are anymore. And those that we think who they are, that is also not really say that we know really, like we know like a name and stuff like that. So what the others think of us, we spend like a really important part of our lives giving energy to that. Then one day finishes, we leave everything. And the question that I personally ask myself, what do I bring with me? I bring with me what I am, not what the others see. But also, even without getting into the thing about death and rebirth, let's think about this very life. Ask yourselves, how many lives have you had inside of this? I am more or less in the fifth. When I think, for example, okay, my first life it was until like 12 years old. I was living in Brazil. I had like a whole reality. At a certain point, my life changed. I went in India. That reality changed. Other people, another reality, completely changed. Then, at a certain point, I came to live in Italy. Then there were other changes. And when I look, it's like different lives inside one life. And so I believe that it's difficult that one says no. For me, it was just one life. I think that the majority of us can recognize some lives inside of this one. And when we were in one of these lives, somehow it seemed eternal. It seemed that those people would have always been there. It seemed that those situations would have been there forever, and so on. And then at a certain point, it ends. That cycle ends. Those people, for whatever reason, we don't see them so much anymore. If we see them, if we meet them like in a different way, there are not those contexts. Life changes, as it's normal that it is. Our life is cyclical. In my life, cycles have always been more or less of 12 years old. So as I was 12 years old, I went to India, then I came back in Italy 12 years after that. So it's like every 12 years, like a cycle starts and ends. But anyway, what happens is that the things that we have built that seemed that would have existed forever, at a certain point they change, but we continue. There is something that was there in that life, then that it's there also today. The experiences that I've lived, the habits that I've created, those I bring them with me. The judgment of the others, I don't. Whether the others think that I'm a beautiful person or not, that doesn't continue with me. But the habits, the qualities that we develop, who we really are in that sense, from inside, that continues. And this, for me, is one of the most important things that we should take care of. But taking care of it means to take care of it in an active way. Very often we leave our character, our way of thinking, our habits, emotions, conditionings, and so on, as a sort of result of the world that we live in. So if I get angry, it's because this and that have happened. If, on the other hand, I am joyous, it's because of this situation or the other. And we have a really hard time to interact in a way that it's aware, directed towards developing an inner characteristic or another. I don't know if this is clear. I don't know how often one sits there to think, today I will do this because I have to train myself in gratitude. Today I do this because I need to train in generosity. So I go there on purpose and I do in a certain way to get in touch with that feeling, to offer something and to rejoice of that and to do that with joy. It doesn't come spontaneous, but I put some effort and I do it. We usually live in a way that our inner state that of our habits are nothing else but the fruit of the experiences that we live in, situations that we find ourselves in. I was speaking a few days ago with a group of doctors, like all Dutch doctors in that case, and as I was speaking with them, I asked them, in your formation, like in the school, from the university, and has it ever been given to you some methods to take care of your mental health? Answer, no. To you, in your educational path, have you ever had like mental health um, school subject? So what I want to say is that we live in a time where the lack of mental health is getting worse in really tremendous way. And on the other hand, to have a good mental health is something that we can do something about. To have a joyous mind, stable, balanced, clear, concentrated, aware, and so on. An emotional state of stability, a good resilience are characteristics of an healthy mind. An healthy mind has clarity, can concentrate well, has energy, has a good resilience, it's not reactive. Some characteristics of a healthy mind. Doesn't go in a loop, doesn't have like a sort of inner dialogue that it's endless, that you cannot stop. It's a healthy mind can have inner silence. But the most important thing is that it's possible to cultivate a healthy mind. Our inner state is not a simple result of the situations that we are in. But here we have a small problem.
Più che un problema, una caratteristica di cui è importante essere consapevoli.
More than a problem, a characteristics of which we need to be aware. That is, the energy that we have every day is limited. From when we wake up to when we go to sleep, the strength, the energy, the inner space that I have, and so on, is limited. And if I put energy on something, it means that that energy I cannot put it somewhere else. Is this clear? And so if we take the energy that we have in a day, and we would kind of split it in like points. Let's say that one day is like 1000 points, like whatever. And of these 1000 points, like a part of our energy goes for our survival, the energy of our own body. So our own mind needs to do like a tremendous job to manage our physical energies. The body consumes energy to stay alive. We need to consume our energy to work, to get the resources for our survival, to interact with the others. There is a basis of survival, without getting into details now, that consumes a lot of energy. And also, the first level of energy consumption are also all the objects that come to our senses. Everything that I see, hear, the smell that I feel, the touch, the taste. When whatever object comes to our senses, our being can't manage to be totally indifferent. We, as a minimum, need to discern, do we need it or not? So we consume an important part of our energy, daily energy, for survival. Then we have another part that it's about all the information that we receive that we need to kind of um, put here or there, this we need it, that not. And then we have a part of energy that is consumed by our own thoughts. It is said that our brain consumes around the 30% of the energy of the body. I don't know, has it ever happened to you that you don't do anything and you get tired? Once I heard a doctor saying that this happens because in reality you're not doing anything. Like from by the time that you're thinking, you're consuming energy. And how much energy and time do we consume thinking about what the other thinks of me? I need to do this. If I had done that, it would be better to do in that other way. And we kind of revisit the past, project the future, judge the present, make like 20 different possibilities of how we can go. And what the worst is like the 50 possibilities of how we could have gone. And all of this consumes energy. And then when it's a time to try to manage, okay, now I need to train in trying to have awareness. There is no more energy left. There are those 2 points of the 1000. Then one tries to put it there, and okay, I can't do it. I don't know if this is clear. And then there is something that I've learned a few days ago that struck me. Last Monday I spoke about this in a Bagnano. There is a sleep dynamic that I'd never understood before. When we get really tired and we don't sleep enough, we get to a point where one is really tired, and so what does it happen? That he or she sleeps well. When you're very tired, then it becomes difficult to sleep and rest well. Why? The explanation that I've heard and that I liked is that originally, in nature, originally, when one doesn't sleep enough, there is only one reason, there is a threat. Because like a being with a minimum of awareness and wisdom, when there is like when one is tired, goes to sleep. We have come to a time where one makes does things to stay more awake and to sleep less. So we have a high level of stimulation. We need to constantly stimulate. When there is a stimulation, we are telling ourselves that we need to be awake. When there is a time to sleep, like from the light also of the phone or whatever, because all those lights for millions of years, after a certain time, uh, light to the eyes wouldn't come. And we have a system that is extremely wanted on purpose, that when there is any more light, the system switches down to go switches off to go to sleep. And when there is light, what is the message that we are sending to our bodies? Stay awake. And the blue lights are the worst, and that's why some phones and computers that have that function that after a certain hour the screen gets a bit yellow, but that's already something. But also I heard some this thing that okay, when if we are not in a total darkness, our body generates much less or no melatonin at all. And when there is no melatonin, it's more difficult to generate serotonin. I don't know how many of you sleep in a total darkness, or how many have like a small light here, a small light there. What that study was saying, and that it has been told to me that even like the red dot of light, it's not good. So I like total darkness, for example. Sometimes it has happened to me to go to sleep, like in the house of someone that they put me like in the house where there is like the altar, very beautiful, but I switch all the lights off, even the offerings, I turn them off all. The worst for me it has happened when I was in the room of someone where there was like the clock ticking, and I couldn't manage to turn it off, and so I put the clock inside of like a drawer, but that also didn't work. But aside from that, what I wanted to say is that when we don't sleep well enough, the message that we are sending to ourselves is there is a threat, because if I'm not sleeping, it's because there is a threat. There isn't another reason, valid reason for not sleeping. And so if there is a threat, I need to be awake. And so what happens is that when we go beyond a certain threshold of tiredness, we activate the mechanism of stress. So cortisol increases, we become more active, until at a certain point we manage to close this cycle of stress and one is able to rest, and then you get like tremendously tired. Sometimes I see people saying, I don't know what is the reason I get to the temple, I sit there to meditate and I sleep. It's very simple. You are tired. There is tiredness that is accumulated. And I was reading that when we sleep, there is a sort of liquid that goes in the brain and cleans the brain by the toxins that had been accumulated during the day. And it's for that the reason for which if we don't sleep up to more than a certain after a certain amount of hours, like 18 hours, one is kind of like stoned because the brain is full of toxins. Because it's like when you drink alcohol that you kind of intoxicate your brain. When we don't sleep enough hours, a similar thing happens. So one loses this capacity of clarity and so on. All of this is to say not just that we need to sleep well, and this is important for us, but that if we want to dedicate some quality time to develop our own characteristics, we somehow need to create that space, we need to create that time. And the energy that we have in our days is limited. It's not infinite. It's quite foolish to think that we can do more and more and more. We have a quantity of energy that is limited. And so one of the wise things is not to want to do everything, but to be able to discern in a correct way our priorities. And for a long time the priority has been the survival. Because when the survival is not guaranteed, the priority becomes the survival. I don't know how many of you have ever worried about your own survival. We don't even think about that. So what is our priority? According to me, when we have the luxury of being able to have survival for granted, the priority ideally should be to have a physical and mental state of health, also emotional, relational, environmental, to try to live in a healthy way, sane way, to try to live in a way that is balanced, that helps us to be well with ourselves and with the others. Me, a while ago, I've talked about the characteristics of a healthy body. A healthy body needs to be able to do a few basic things well. The healthy body is tired when it's time to go to sleep, sleeps well. One wakes up with energy, so manages to sleep well. A healthy body is hungry in the time that you need to eat, has a good appetite. And, and a very healthy body wants to eat what is good, what is healthy, and doesn't have attraction to not eat what is not good. That is very healthy. A healthy body doesn't have problems to digest the body, to digest the food. Sorry for the term, but it poops well. But that's part of life, that's important. It's fundamental. It seems like a joke, but it's one of the most fundamental problem that many people have. And the fourth aspect of healthy body is a body that has energy and is like willing to move, doesn't have like fatigue to move. These are problems that if we look at, sometimes we have these problems. So the way that we sleep, the way that we eat, I don't know if it's because like okay when we think about something and we start to see that thing everywhere. Yesterday I was looking on the news and I saw an article talking about the impact of uh, of these scientific studies that talked about the impact of that the quantity of hours of sleep that as predominantly during teenagehood, but also after that, that when you don't have enough hours of sleep, quality sleep, the negative impact is not on just on the moment, but it's on the whole life. So the hours of sleep, the one loses, the impact that it has on the evolutionary process of the brain and other things, it's like a lifetime thing. It's not like you get tired and tomorrow you get better. Now, the details and everything I cannot tell you. But the thing is that sleeping, it's important. And something that I've learned yesterday that I stayed like quite shocked by it. No, I sleep because I take some substances to sleep. One doctor yesterday at dinner was telling me that the majority of the drugs that are used, the substances that are used to induce sleep, don't allow the person to get into the REM sleep. So one stays with a superficial sleep. The REM sleep is what allows one to elaborate emotions, to process emotions. So it's when one dreams. When one dreams, one is kind of revisiting the emotions of what has been lived during the day and somehow goes to digest the emotional part. And it's fundamental for a healthy mind to dream a lot. Sometimes my dreams are really strange. I mix kind of everything together. Someone maybe would think the Lama, what kind of dreams? Yes, like mystical dreams. No, I have strange dreams. Like rarely, sometimes you wake up and you say like, wow, there is something here. But usually they're just like strange dreams. But the dream is the time when we go and digest what we have lived, and it's fundamental for us to sleep. To dream well, we need to sleep well. To sleep well, we need to have a lifestyle that allows us to sleep well. In order to have a lifestyle that allows us to sleep well, we need to activate our system when it needs to be activated, but not in a constant way and excessive. Because we have many ways to activate our system, from the substances like caffeine to looking at movies, looking at something, doing things that activate us. We actually need to get by the end of the day slowly and to go toward that. And here there is another important point, that it's possible for everyone. And among those words that Daniele Bossari talked about, it's the phobia of boredom, the fear of getting bored. That apparently is like something really common. But boredom is beautiful. I don't know, at least for me, it has happened to me to stay there um, quite like dazed. You don't have anything particular to do, and like between one thing of the other. Sometimes it has happened to me like to drink the tea in the morning, and you just stay there, and you just stay. So you're not meditating. There isn't anything mystical. It's not that you're doing anything. Simply you like live for a bit, like the fact that you have to do something, produce something, and so on. Because even the attitude of saying, no, I don't always have to produce something, so I have to produce silence. I need to produce, not producing. And there you're screwed because it doesn't work. But boredom is intended like this moment where one just, yes, there isn't anything, and just leave it. That allows us somehow to relax. That allows us to go beyond that state of boredom, and there it's where we find space to take care of what matters inside of us. We find space to be able to look at us, to digest the emotions, the experiences that we live, and from this also rises a creativity and so on. And so, if we want to dedicate also space, mental space for more complex things, first of all, we need space. The other day I was speaking with a friend that I've known for many years, that it's a master in the Theravada tradition that also came to the Kunpen Pasura. He came yesterday. Was it nice? I think so. Otherwise, someone would say no, because anyway, the Venerable Pasura is like an amazing person, a disciple of Lumpotapa, to which I have a profound affection. And as I was chatting with him yesterday, he said, yeah, actually, the more I get older, the more I need to simplify what I teach. The more we need to get back to the basics, but the basics of the basics of the basics. Because it's pointless to get into complex discourse when there isn't the basis to be able to put them in practice. We can spend time here speaking, for example, about the 9 steps to develop one-pointed meditative concentration, explain all the passages to meditate, steps. There are some wonderful aspects in the Vajrayana teachings, like the aspects of the subtle body, the energetical parts, the very complex of meditation of every kind, and so on. But in order to do anything like that, first of all, we need space. I've had like an experience the last autumn in Tibet. Not good, unfortunately. That really shocked me. One day, a friend comes to me. He's an astrologer. He was very like enthusiastic, super happy, and he brings this book to me that now is at our Bagnano library. Look, finally I managed to have this book here, and it was a book that in the Tibetan astrology, I make like a long story short, as short as possible. By the time of the fifth Dalai Lama, fifth Dalai Lama was an important master. Actually, let's allow me to get into history a bit. Actually, it was like the first. So the Tibetans have like a strange way to give titles. Because the first to have the name of Dalai Lama was the first, but actually because he had already four previous lives recognized as the reincarnation of the previous ones had like also the title. So as they were alive, you never heard about the Dalai Lama, like from the first to the fourth. Never, you never heard the name Dalai Lama as they were alive. But because the fifth had been recognized as Dalai Lama, then the name also had been given to the others, to the previous ones. I don't know why I told about this. So when the fifth Dalai Lama left the body, it was time in Tibet. It was very delicate. There was a lot of political instability, and it was also time where they started building the Potala Palace, and um, kind of main assistant of Dalai Lama, there was Tempen Gyatso, had this idea, okay, if people come to know that the Dalai Lama is not there anymore, everything collapses, we don't have political stability, social stability, to sustain what we have now without the person of the fifth Dalai Lama. So he kept hidden the death of the Dalai Lama for like around 25 years. He put like a monk there that looked kind of him, and then Dalai Lama was like in retreat. No one could speak to him, and sometimes maybe the emperor from China would come, like someone important that you had to receive them, and they would put him there. They would kind of look the same. You didn't have photographs at the time. You would say like a few words. Sometimes you would give like some public blessings. You would do something, and like this, 25 years passed. Anyway, all of this was to say that Tenzin Gyatso was like a man of great knowledge, and he, in these years of power, one of the things that he did was to put together the great experts that were there in Tibet of all knowledges that were there at the time, from theater to painting to poetry to philosophy, medicine, history, astrology, every kind of aspect that was there in the culture of Tibet. He put together the greatest experts using his power by the name of the fifth, as the main assistant of the fifth Dalai Lama, to write books where people put together the knowledge. And he wrote these books that even now are like a total point of reference, like for example on Tibetan medicine, art, and his books are called Bendurya, with the different colors, are the reference on these kind of things. And when astrology came into that, two books were written, so like the mother volume and the child volume. But the point is that in the child volume, it was where you had like the most important points, so like the secret things, like the key points. So when you do like uh, astrological calculations and especially the interpretation, because in the first volume it explains how to do like the calculations of the ephemerides, so the position of every planet, and it gives like a not very deep interpretation. But when it gets to a point, okay, to have like a deep interpretation, look at the child volume. No one had never seen that volume for centuries. Many great experts debated whether that volume actually existed or not, up to just a little while ago. So this friend comes to me with this book in his hands, because the director of the Department of Medicine and Astrology in Lhasa was also the responsible of the library of the manuscript that is in Potala in Lhasa, and is in his very researches found himself in front of this book. On the book it was written, you cannot read without the right permissions, and you had like a list for those who received the permissions. There was like a list where one had to write the name and the date when he read it. It was a manuscript. And the point is that since the time of the fifth Dalai Lama, no one had never wrote his name, and there it stayed. So this master responsible that it's now today at Lhasa scanned this book to prove that there was the original. He made it write it in the computer because it was written in a difficult way, and he published all the story to say that my friend comes to me very happy with this book, like, wow, look what we have here. And I say, how beautiful, and what does it say? No one understands. What do you mean? Now we have a problem. The greatest experts of astrology, and this guy is like a level of culture marvelous, like a knowledge of Tibetan astrology marvelous. But the greatest experts, okay, we are meeting up to give interpretation, and there are some passages that we cannot understand because the transmission got lost. So centuries have passed, and now we don't know anymore what that book is. So what I wanted to say is that we are in a time where even if we have a lot of information, somehow the information is decreasing. I don't know if this is clear. Because if I have the book and I can understand what does it say, it's like not having it. For example, like Divina Commedia. I don't know who read it here. I read it once, and I heard the commentary that Benigni gave that it's marvelous, and the beauty of having a difficult text, a profound text that at the beginning you read and you don't understand much, and you read it again and again, and someone explains you why is that, and at a certain point you see that those words are able to transmit like a tremendous richness. So if at a certain point no one explains the Divine Comedy anymore, at a certain point it's as if it wasn't there anymore because one is not able to understand it anymore. So what I see that it's also happening in our Buddhist context is that the most complex teachings, the most difficult and so on, unfortunately, fortunately they didn't get lost, but more and more often we need to get on the simplest things, because there are some arguments that in order to understand them we need mental space. In order to be able to practice them, it requires much more mental space, and to be able to realize them even more. And I am convinced that if there is something that all of us need, it's to create space, to create silence, to allow ourselves to rest the mind, to consume less our energy with what really is not necessary. Because the strangest thing, partly, but actually it's not so strange, is that when we think about many stupid things, then we get used to thinking about stupid things. Mind has these characteristics that it's very, very clear that it's called use it or lose it. So the part that of our mind that we don't use, we lose it. Just need to look at memory. I don't know. Who had a better memory, us or our grandparents? We now believe that because we have like an external memory, it's also on the cloud. I don't need to remember, it's written somewhere. I don't need to understand. When I need to get that information, I just need to ask, someone tells me. We are losing our capacity of memory. Now we're gradually losing our capacity of analysis, of comprehension, and so on. The problem is that when I find myself in front of a situation where I need to take a decision, and I need to have my own judgment of the situation, the tools that I have to take the decision and to make my own judgment are not external, are all internal. And so we have less capacity of taking decisions. And this generates more stress. And so what I invite everyone to do really is to try, each one of us in our own capacity, to create space, to allow ourselves to get bored a bit, to allow ourselves to rest, to try to find some silence with no fear. A few days ago, I heard someone commenting, yeah, but also when you're in silence and you're by yourself, you see things that you don't want to see, and it's difficult. And I was there thinking, well, how fortunate that you can see them. Because if you can see them, that means that you can do something to face them. Once I heard the master saying, when you're by yourself and you're not well, it means that you're not in a good company. It's not a good sign. The good news is that we can change this company, make it become a good company. But, for example, now that we're going towards summer, where one works the whole year to have that glory moment of holidays, vacation, let's try to use this space, temporal space that we have for something sane, something that goes to cultivate our mental and physical health. And what we need to take care of the most is our mental health. The silence, for example, when we manage to experience silence that is not just sensory silence also, but sensory silence that of the sight, of the ears, summed with the mental silence. So when one is not in the loop of thoughts, in the inner dialogue, and doesn't have external objects to judge and to understand, that silence naturally goes to activate amygdala, that has the effect of lowering cortisol and to bring back the body in balance. Also already this. And we need this. Stress by itself is not a problem, it's a need, it's part of a necessary mechanism. The problem is chronic stress. And we need to create inner space, space in general, and this depends on a choice. Depends on the priorities that we give in our own life. And me, I'm sure that by the time that we have that half day, I want to allow myself to get bored, to then maybe be able to meditate. What happens is that we get into abstinence. That scares us. The other day, as I was joking, as we were in the Vazak, tried to make an act of courage to get out of home without the cell phone. Seems like a joke, but it's not. Yesterday I was at dinner in a place in the mountains, and I left my phone on the table, and I was going down. Also, already the girl comes to me, and you left the phone, and I thought, why did you bring it to me? It wouldn't have been so bad to leave it there. And I have a bad relation with my phone, so I use it very little, and I said myself that I will not become slave of the phone, so also of the messages and so on. But the fact is that I invite you to have awareness of the necessity that we have of silence, of the necessity that we have of dedicating space to be able to have space. And once we have space, at that point we can ask ourselves, what do I want to fill it with? And I hope that we fill it with something good. And at that point, I can read, go deeper on something, meditate, reflect, look one to the other, help one to the other. And we can allow ourselves actually to get deeper on things. Because the argument from which we started today, that is our image, is very important to work in learning to see oneself beyond the judgment of the other. One of the exercises is to observe our own characteristics and like cards to put them on the table. And to allow oneself, okay, here there is laziness, there is my strength of will, there is my awareness, my love, my selfishness, rancor, there is some anger, that it can be either generalized or even, okay, on that specific thing, on a certain person or certain situation. Okay, let's see all the different aspects, and it's a bit like the joke. As I was speaking with some parents, I don't know if you have ever wanted to kill your child, metaphorically speaking. This doesn't mean that there isn't love. There are times where you just say, okay, stop it, I can't do it anymore. And that doesn't mean that there isn't love, there isn't patience in some other moment. So, what I wanted to say is, let's allow ourselves to see and recognize our own incoherencies, to put them all there. And when we put them there in front of us, we ask ourselves, but what am I? What do I feel for my son, daughter? Is it love, impatience, anger, rancor? Is indifference? And we will see that there is a bit of everything. When there is a bit of everything, we can try to choose which one of these ingredients we want to increase. When we don't allow ourselves to see the various aspects that are there inside of us, we have the tendency of generalizing through one of these and not to take care of one of the other anymore. So when there is like an aspect that is not so right, like a deep tiredness, a particular anger, something of this kind, until we don't listen to that, that part will try to make itself heard again and again. And so when I ask myself, who am I? I am many things. So I listen to myself, I listen to the different aspects that I have, I allow myself to see myself on different levels. And when someone tells me, ah, look, that you're this, I'm also this, yes. Don't have problems. I would like to be different on some aspects, yes, and I will do my best to change that. But in order to allow ourselves to do this, we need to create space. But anyway, I am. I trust that we are not like doing so bad in the sense that yes, we need to create space, but we have some space. Otherwise, we won't be here. And for this, going back to the point, in the initial point. How many times we say something not for what we want to transmit, but for what the other wants to see? How many times do we make choices, condition it by how we want the others to see us? One of the beautiful things is to gradually allow ourselves to just leave this. It's a difficult exercise. It's long. When you think that you have got there, you will see that it's not true because it's hidden somewhere else. When you less expected, you find it there, but it's a very good thing. And someone sometimes tells me, "Ah, Lama, it seems that now it got worse, and no, it's just that you're getting more aware. It's like when one lives in the middle of dirt, so you start to clean, and you remove some of the dirt, and so there is like the difference between the clean and the dirt. That doesn't mean that that dirt didn't harm, in a sense. So one of the valuable things is to try to see what are the kind of attitudes that we have where we waste our energy. And one of the points where we consume a lot of energy, according to me, in a useless way, or at least in a majority of parts, is in these inner dialogues that don't get anywhere. And with this, these inner dialogues often are connected with how the others see us, and there is fear that comes from this. And many choices that we take are conditioned by this. And so to reflect with ourselves, because it's not just to not care about criticism, but also about praises. And it's here that, because it's easy to say, okay, if that person criticizes me, doesn't, I'm not that, but when one praises you, at that point, yes, I am that. And how to do this without getting disconnected by the word. I believe, for example, that if someone gives us compliments, what gives me joy is that if someone tells me something, that means that that person received something good, and how beautiful that for you it works well. If someone, on the other hand, criticizes, that it means that there is something that didn't work in interaction with the other. So I'm sorry. How can I make it? How can I improve it? I I will always remember that anecdote where I was on the plane with Lama Gangchen, and he was sitting. Lama Gangchen was in front of me, and next to me was this Russian man. He spoke a little English, and at a certain point he looks at me and he says, "You, what are you? Like dressed like that and so on." Yeah, Buddhist, Lama, and so on. You should be ashamed. No, ugly people. And there I was like, I remember well. Explain me better. I got curious because to me, okay, like the times like that I found myself in front of someone that had like strong criticism towards me, that I had the courage to say it openly. It's a beautiful thing because it allows you to kind of face and to see like some aspects that maybe you didn't see before. And to me, whether you tell me that I'm something or something else, that doesn't change a lot to me. So it's like your problem. And so I asked him, explain me better. He said, you leave all the difficult part of life, so you drop everything, you follow a religious life without building a family, without working. I would really like to see that peace while having to go to work every day, having to take care of wife and children. That is the difficult part. It's easy to be like saints with all the easy parts of life. You're right, I said. It's just that our reality, I was speaking for myself, and Lama Gangchen is not really what you imagine. I mean, I think about Lama Gangchen, it's a person that didn't have like 1 minute of private life. He was 24 hours on 24 available for everyone. I'm not joking. I remember once that we were in Tibet, and at a certain point, it was 2 in the morning. Had received people all day long. I was like so extremely tired, exhausted, and you could see it. And Sulama Gangchen said, "Okay, now I need to go meet that person." And I said, "No, Rinpoche, no. Your patience, your love is endless, but your body has a limit. come on. I knew the situation, you just leave it. It's like a stupid thing. It's like a situation of like a caprice, is nothing. Go to sleep. If you want, I can go there even, but please rest. And he answered me like this. He simply said, how can I every day say, may all the sentient beings have happiness and its causes, may have all beings be free from suffering and its causes, and then when I find myself uh, of the needy one, then I just let it go, and I I'm indifferent, and so I said, okay, I come with you. It was like a trivial thing, but also there it was like a teaching, because the suffering is not to be judged. What one person leaves as suffering, another person doesn't leave as suffering, but that doesn't mean that there is not like a real suffering. It doesn't need to be seen and cared of and healed. And just to make an example, because Lama Gangchen didn't have like a life where he tried to run away from the difficult things of life. And even if I think to myself, I had the luck to grow in a familiar context where, in order to make like a simple and comfortable life, I wouldn't miss anything. But today I need to worry about paying the bills of the center, that it's more complex. And often, last week we were there with like kind of the balance sheet, because here and there, how can we do make it this year? Last year it worked, but this year, and I've always said, and I still believe, you need to do a lot of work, but there is a Tibetan way of saying, when you act according to the Dharma with a good motivation, pure motivation, the resources to do that fall like rain. And the particular thing is that the rain is just always with counted drops. There isn't always like something exceeding. It's like the year where when we invited Nimatuko Rinpoche and many monks to receive teachings, and this Lama was invited by Lama Gangchen from Tibet to give some teachings, because those transmissions in India got lost, and no one had that knowledge, and those who had that knowledge, that so he managed to bring to Albagnano this Lama, like a miracle, and managed at the same time to invite everyone to come. And during the meeting, okay, we do this thing. We are like the visa for this Lama to come. Okay, we do this. And the money, because that meant to pay tickets for like around 120 people. That meant like to give food for everyone for 3 months, and like food, like sleep, not like a small thing. We didn't have a budget in the sense that we didn't have the money. And there I talked with the director of the bank, and I said during the meeting, look, the director of bank said that we have like some credit of 50,000 euro whenever we need. So, like, to make a long story short, when the event finished, we'd spent like 220,000, and we collected 222,000. How we did, I don't know, but it happened. Like a few drops more sometimes stay, but all of this was to say that that Russian man was right, that when someone tries like the religious life to get away from the mundane problems, the reality is that it doesn't work. And this is something of which one needs to be aware. So it's not like a choice for a comfortable life. It's a choice for a life on service that is different. But when we find ourselves in front of someone who has criticism, it's beautiful to be able to listen to that with an open mind, free free to have this mind free from the weight of the criticism itself. So if you think something of me, that's your problem, not mine. But you help me to see something of myself. When someone criticizes me, either that helps me to see an aspect of my shadow that I didn't see before, and so thank you, or that gives me even more strength because okay, you see something, I look at it, I recognize it, that I'm on the right path. But what it's important to again say that what the other thinks or say, think or say, doesn't determine what I am. Let's remember this. Because gradually we create these idealized images of what we think we should be, and this image of what we think we should be. There is also what my parents wanted that me to become, like also the partner, the children, all these kind of images. There is what in the working context of the society context wanted me to be, and I have this difficulty of adapting to all of this, and that consumes a lot of time and energy. And so I am not one thing and I'm not another thing. I have many characteristics and I try to improve more and more the most beautiful ones. This is it. Me, for example, these days I find myself like in a dilemma. Dilemma is not the right word, but like a situation that already was like in the past like was like something difficult. Now it's not so more, but it has to do with all of this. So having put myself in the midst of this book thing, it happens that I do it like in a different context from that. That would be my ideal vision, my ideal view of a book, as I like the books that I read as they were in the past, is that like in ancient times in Tibet, the name of the author appears at the end of the book, never on the cover. And the book doesn't revolve around the author, it revolves around the content. And so for this, for me, this is the point. Like what matters to me, it's the fact that those words that are written there can benefit those who read it. We read them. So for me, it's not important. Okay, this person wrote them or the other person. I'm not the point of the story. And for example, as I was joking so with someone the other day, uh, ah, they said, the book is really like on the classification, and I said, but no one has read it yet. And so the difficulty that I have is that, okay, it's part of our culture that who writes has a certain importance. There is that thing of signing books. What does it change you? The sign of the book, the content is the same. Me personally, towards me, like the book that I've always received, I have never asked that because it's that the content. So also today, joking with the publisher, I said to me, the most intimate people are those to which I don't give a dedication, I don't sign, because that means that there is really like a connection that doesn't need like a materialization, so it doesn't revolve around me, and I'm trying to find like a technique to go around this, but still I haven't managed. Because for me it's much worth like a hug rather than a sign, signature. I'm trying, I still haven't found the right method, but all of this to say that in our life we have situations coming back where we need to put ourselves on kind of play. There are some traps that where life brings us, more than traps, actually opportunities, and it's important for each one of us to maintain with clarity our direction. Maintain with clarity the goals, more than the goals, our principles. And this is fundamental. So where there is like a principle that I am, the together of my experiences, of my knowledge, of my choices, of my interactions, I'm not what the others think of me. This is a principle that it's fundamental. I need to maintain it like saying through my way of interacting with each one. There is for me a fundamental principle that is the principle of nonviolence that starts from the non-indifference towards the suffering of the other. And so even here, like in the days where we live, it's not so obvious to maintain saying this principle, this principle saying, but it's our own duty, job. So let's not victimize ourselves. But the society is like this, the situation is like that. No, my principles depend on me. The values that I follow depend on me. And for me personally, they are a priority. And this is something that we all have to be careful of, to review what are our principles, our values, and on the basis of this to see, to try to, in everyday life, to protect them. So it's also for this that there are the vows of to protect, like the vow, for example, of not lying. Why does it exist? Two reasons. One, lying is bad. It's kind of um, so when you lie and no one knows that you're lying, and you manage to lie well, and you also manage to sustain that lie for a while, that kind of eats you from the inside. And one, in order to not kind of corrode from the inside, then it starts to believe in the lie, and it gets worse and worse. So lying is bad to oneself, to the others. This is one reason. The other, for which there is the vow of not lying, sometimes you feel like it's like a shortcut. It's like a way to avoid some problems, to get some advantages. So it's something that it's like comfortable, easy. In some contexts, it seems like a good thing in some contexts, but actually that it's bad. And the worst is that it's something that if I try to start to do a bit here, a bit there, then I lose completely the control. And it's for this that there is the vow. The vow, the commitment is to protect ourselves from the difficulties. The vow of not to steal, to steal is bad, and sometimes you feel like, also like with the tax declaration, make like a very real example in the context that we are, you know. We can make thousands more, and so on. So the vow of having a a correct sexual conduct. Why is there this vow? Because the sexual misconduct is harmful, without getting into details, and at the same time, sometimes you may feel like it, according to the context, the situation, and so on. And so for this, you have the vow. The vow is there to protect us. I don't know, for example, to eat a lot of sugars, it's bad. Let's put the vow, let's not eat sugar. Even better, to not eat sugar at all. Because why do you need the vow? Because if it's harmful and sometimes you feel like it. So if we don't manage in our daily life to give ourselves some guidance, guidelines, we end up being like overwhelmed by like daily life and all the inputs that we received continuously, and by the habits that are created, or even better, by those already created. And for this, I invite you to give you some guidelines and to use this moment that I hope everyone can have a lot of moments of vacation and the following period, but to take some time, whether it's like the weekend, whether it's like the week where you go on vacation or whatever it is, to take that time and to put some moments there to take care of what is health is to sane, like of physical and mental health. And I repeat once again, I will not get tired of repeating it until we get there. In order to get mental health, we need the silence, and the silence cannot be obtained like that. No, silence, the silence of mind. Sometimes really I'm so boring because I see myself repeating the same things 20,000 times. But how can I say? Sometimes I've said, or better, more than said, I've realized that I have very little patience for teaching. And I've seen this when it was asked me to teach Tibetan. I went there, I taught the lesson, and now you study. No? Alphabet. I've said it once, it's recorded, you repeat it, and you learn it. It's not that you have to stay there and to repeat it with you. I've explained those 4 rules, that it's like 8, total 8, like 4 basic. It's very simple. Tibetan is difficult. Yeah, if you don't study, you stay there and you repeat thousands of times the alphabet, and sooner or later we get in. You do the spelling, then sooner or later it will come in. And what we do here, it's not to teach, but to do like a analytical meditation altogether, where we do like a sort of positive brainwash to repeat the things that we already know like thousands of times, because maybe sometimes it gets more like in the head. That's what we need more, because the reality is that we have knowledge. We need to familiarize ourselves with that. We need to have the strength to put that into practice and to simplify and to see that it's not so complex, it's not so far away, and we can all do it. And it's for this that I invite you, or to continue to practice these simple things, to breathe more awarely, to create more silent moments of silence, to increase the usage of useless information. And for example, if you have the habit of having to take the phone in your hands, for example, in the toilet, try to replace that with a book. Whatever, just an example. Someone told me, okay, once that he wanted to stop smoking, and Gangchen, and he said, okay, my problem of smoking, it's not really like wanting the smoke, but the problem of having the cigarette in my hands. And so Lama Gangchen told him, no problem, just light the incenses. And he gave him a pack of incenses. He broke them like 2/3 or something. He made like cigarette measures incense, and you will see like this girl going around with the incense. And this helped her to a lot, because every time that she felt like having the cigarette, she will light the incense, and even trying to smoke that it's not possible. And this bit by bit helped her to change the habit. What does this mean? That we need to replace one thing with something else. It's not just you can't just take it away. So it's important to replace these spaces that are consumed by useless information, with more useful information, like also with more silence. But we need to be proactive in this sense. Me, today, I think I don't know when will be the next day here in Milan. I know that next Thursday we will make the presentation of the book here in Milan. We had the opportunity to get like a bigger room to give everyone the opportunity to be there. But this following time of June will be around with the best of intentions. Then there will be some retreats in Abagnano in July and August. So I don't know when will be the next time here in Kunpen, maybe in September. But I wanted to say something about this. Of course, to be together is important, it's beautiful, and so on. But the most important thing is how much we apply all of this in our daily life. And me personally, honestly, like to be here is something that I care about a lot. It has always given me a lot of joy. And as I say last week, even this book, I care that you can feel also kind of main characters, not in the sense that I speak about you, but in the sense that the content is the fruit of a process, a path that we are doing together. Because the majority of the book comes from the transcriptions of the Wednesdays Kunpen or the Mondays at Bagnano. So it's something that has been developed together. Because as I'm here doing this, making this monologue, uh, there is like an exchange. So I thank you for this. And and so what I really believe that I can share, offer, I always do without keeping anything secret, hidden. It was like when I was in Brazil a while ago, and they asked me, "Oh, maybe we can do something in particular to give like some help, economical help in particular to the center." Yes, the center is in need, and they said, "Okay, maybe you can do like a special teaching for who sustains the center in a particular way." And I said no, because I don't have anything to say there that I don't say in other contexts. It's obvious that there are some aspects that when you're speaking about that argument, when you can talk about it, but it's not like there is something hidden. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity of being able to share, because to me personally it helps me in my process, in my path, and I ask you by heart to do your best to put it in practice. So we'll be there next week. We will see each other next week. We can come to Bagnano, invite you to come there to spend half a day there, whatever, how much time you can spend there. And also remember you that next Wednesday we'll be here at the Kunpen, another Lama. There is Kundalini Rinpoche. That it's also nice to see sometimes a different approach. Kundalini Rinpoche is a very scholastic, traditional Lama, a person with great knowledge. I asked to give a short teaching on the introduction of the Lamrim. The Lamrim is a system more than a book of, it's like a sort of manual to enlightenment, of which somehow I always approach the Lamrim without saying that it's Lamrim, but I asked him like in a formal way to explain like the story, where does it come from, because he's really good on all these things. And so I invite you to come next uh, Wednesday to listen to him, also because he comes from far away, he comes from India. He went to give some teachings in Germany, because he was very friendly with Lama Gangchen, and so we kind of took the opportunity also to ask him to share something with everyone, and also, so this is also to honor him. So if you want to come next Wednesday, and as Lama Gangchen was saying, see you sometimes, see you every moment. And so it's this, the important thing at the end is what we put into practice. I, this came This came to me because I was reflecting, okay, we won't be here for a while. This moment will not repeat itself for some months. And with all honesty, I don't know if I will be here in September. Not in the sense that I will move to Hawaii or something like that. It's that impermanence is for everyone. We are here. When I will die, I don't know. And this is not to say be careful, the Lama said, I don't have any strange intuition or stuff like that. There is the certainty of the impermanence. And so the question that I ask myself, if I wouldn't come back here anymore, have I offered what I have had to offer? And the answer is yes. So these are simple things, but are also the most important things. They are the most important ones. And we can all use them at the best that we can do. And as a last thing, it's the fact that we are able to walk together on this path. Um, and because of this, there is a trust that we are able to generate between each other, and not just me and you, but also among all of us. So, because when it's possible for one, it means that it's possible also for another one. And I believe that it's like a very, very real and possible path. And for this, I invite you to put energy towards light and to focus on your qualities. Let's focus on our qualities without being afraid of seeing the darkness, but bit by bit to nourish our most beautiful part. And this is what we can all do. And this is all. I invite you. Thank you. So let's make our final dedications. One final thing, one last detail. Who will take the book? Don't feel ashamed to ask me like the signature, because this is connected also with what we said. What will the Lama think of me that I ask for the signature? I'm not a good disciple. That it's not really what you have to feel. Like, okay, if you feel like it, just do it.
Drove münsel taktu ne gyurchi kewa kuntu yanda lama dang dralme cheki pela longche ching sada lamge yente rabzo ne dorje change kopa nyur tobasho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shing Delek pe kuncho sumki chingi lob kuncho sumki ngodrubutsol kuncho sumki trashisho all'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno. Tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni. Possono aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Grazie a tutti.